Well, welcome back, dear listeners, to Fright or Flight, the podcast where we rank, recap, and review every horror movie in a given franchise.
Today we're going to keep talking about It.
We're going to keep talking about It. This is part 2. Welcome back.
Part 2. Yeah, welcome back. I hope you just listened to our last episode. We're going to be talking about It. The whole thing is super long, so we decided to split it up into 2 parts, and this is the second one.
This is the second one. So we left off talking about Stephen King's take on the adaptation of his
novel.
Yes. He was involved in this process. So he was approached and they said, hey, we want to make this a series from ABC. And then he was like, that's kind of weird, but go off, I guess. So he sent the early stages of his manuscript to Lawrence Cohen, who ended up being the writer for a lot of Stephen King's book to film adaptations. So he would be the screenwriter for it. And again, he had over 8 hours worth of content. And then they were like, yeah, no, you can cut it down to like 4. So they originally had George Romero, and then he was like, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. So then they got Tommy Lee Wallace, so that's kind of where we left off as well. Later, when they did show him the film...
Show Stephen King?
Yeah. He met them in the room, and he requested to watch it by himself. But he met them and shook their hand. He had like a rubber rat in his hand.
A rubber rag?
Rubber rat.
Rubber rat.
Rubber rat, yes. I feel like that's really it's like a tongue twister kind of rubber rat.
Say it 5 times fast.
Rubber rat, rubber rat, rubber rat, rubber rat, rubber rat.
That sounds like a beat, like.
Yeah. But Stephen King held a rubber rat in his hand and like shook their hands, and then they were like, "What is this?" I guess he did it to like maybe break the tension or something.
He's a goofball.
Just to be a little funny, like a little haha moment. Mm-hmm. He's a weirdo, but whatever. So his take on it was that he liked the series a lot, and he thought Tim Curry made a great Pennywise. It scared the shit out of a lot of kids at the time, and it was one of the reasons that the movie, the new one, was a big hit because kids remembered seeing it on TV, so they went to see it.
That makes sense. Ironic, huh?
It is ironic.
Like 27 years later.
It is true. It remains the fact that if you are scared of something, later it becomes a special interest.
Yeah.
Whenever I first saw The Exorcist, I cried my eyes out. I saw the part where she was doing a backbend down the stairs with blood gushing out of her mouth. It scared the shit out of me. And I saw it and I was like, ah! Like I was crying in a fetal position. I was really young. Scarred me for life. Now it's one of my favorites. It's just really funny how that happens. Yeah. But King did express dissatisfaction with some of the creative decisions and limitations imposed by the TV format and budget constraints of the time. He felt that the miniseries didn't fully capture the depth and complexity of the book, and he had concerns about the adaptation's ability to translate the story's darker and more intense elements to the screen effectively. He's just a critic, though.
I think that's to be said about every adaptation.
Yeah.
You just can't do in the movie what you can do in a book.
That's true. But overall, while Stephen King acknowledged some of the positive aspects of the miniseries, he also voiced reservations and felt that the adaptation didn't fully realize the vision he had for the story. The perspective led to the eventual development of a more comprehensive and big-budget film adaptation of It in 2017, and its sequel, which aimed to provide a more faithful and cinematic representation of the novel, which I would say from what I've read, they're both pretty close.
Now, I want to talk to you a little bit for a second just about, we just heard Stephen King's take on the miniseries. And I want to know, we've now seen 3 adaptations. You know, you're familiar with a couple of them at least already. Mm-hmm. And now that we're learning more about Stephen King doing the show, what's your current standing in your opinion of Stephen King?
I feel like you can't please him a little bit. I mean, there are things that he's definitely like, oh, yes. But, like, if you're going to be that picky, then ask to be involved, you know?
I mean, he was supposedly going to be involved in The Shining, and Stanley Kubrick threw away his script.
Like, if you want it to be, like, a really good book-to-film adaptation, and you're the visionary, like, be involved.
Well, a lot of the times, these people are involved, and the executives push back on their opinions.
I didn't really hear anything about his involvement with it, other than like he was just like cool, and he sent his like manuscript.
Yeah, but you're allowed to have an opinion of it. It's your work.
You're allowed to have an opinion, 1,000%. But like, I feel personally, if I were to write something, I would want to be involved in the creative process, and I would be like, no, you're gonna let me be involved, or you're not gonna make this. Because this is my work, and if you want to make my work, I want to have some hand in what happens.
So you think he's too picky?
I think he's a little bit too picky.
Okay.
There's never going to be a perfect like adaptation ever.
No, of anything.
No. And I mean, I think that from what I can tell, they left out necessary things. So I wonder if he's like low key upset that that there was not a kid orgy kind of thing. Like, what if that's what he's upset about?
I really think the only movie he's really upset about of any, I mean, when
is The Shining.
People ask him. So whenever he's criticizing any of the films, it's not out of his own like, oh, I'm going to go out of my way to talk crap about this. It's because interviewers are asking him, hey, is there anything you didn't like about that movie? Well, he has to find something to say. But I think the only one that really upset him was The Shining. I
think so too. I mean, he does, compliment like Tim Curry. How could you not compliment Tim Curry? He's a god. I'm sorry. He just is. Like, he's so talented and gifted. I love him. And I think that, he creates these crazy images, and I think that there's only so much that these people can do without, fully realizing his idea. I mean, they're not in Stephen King's mind, so they
But it's not like he said any.
Yeah,
it sounded like it was really positive what he said about this.
That's the most positive, other than the misery.
So far, in general, he's liked the films we've been covering.
Except for Christine. He didn't like Christine either, if you recall. He didn't really care for John Carpenter's take on it, which I have a theory that John Carpenter kind of critiqued that in a later film called In the Mouth of Madness, which was making, it was kind of talking about a horror writer named Sutter Kane.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to ask you something. This is kind of a personal question. It's a little aside from the podcast. Do you feel like you have a hard time taking criticism over the things that you enjoy?
No.
No? Okay.
I mean, I enjoy a lot of things, whether people enjoyed them or not.
Well, I just mean like if you're like a big fan, like I can't think of anything off the top of like Trick or Treat, right?
Love Trick or Treat.
And I approached you and I was like, oh, I think that sucks. I feel like it would upset you.
No, I would just be like, okay, weird. But like I wouldn't take it personally because that means more love coming from me to it. So
do you think you'd ever feel like negatively about a person based on their opinions? Like for example, you love horror movies and you're not single. Would that have been a deal breaker? Do you care at all if your partner has like similar interests that you have?
I don't care so much about us having similar interests the whole time, but I think that it would impact greatly some of the things. Like, if he didn't like horror at all, he was like, I hate horror movies. Horror movies suck. They scare me. I would be like, this is not going to work out, because that's a huge part of
your identity.
My identity. Yeah. And it's also like Halloween has been my favorite thing. And I lucked out with my partner. He loves Halloween. He's hit or miss with scary movies. He doesn't really care either way. I think he enjoys watching them mostly, but I think that he criticizes them a lot because some of them are goofy.
So yeah, you're used to the criticism.
He does not like Nightmare on Elm Street at all. I've shown him some of those and he's like, they suck. And I'm like, you suck. But I don't mean that. I know that he doesn't suck, know. Like I would just goof off with him. Okay. But I am like, whatever, you don't have to like them. I like them because they're campy and funny.
Fair enough.
And that's also not me shitting on other people. If like they like, Texas Chainsaw Part 2, that's their favorite.
A lot of people love that one.
It's a cult classic apparently, and I don't view it that way at all.
You don't like Stretch and Lefty.
I hate them. If I met them IRL, I would have an appreciation for the craft and the love that they put into it, but I just hate it. It's not mine. It's not mine for sure. But definitely, speaking of Tim Curry, and like all of the fun creatures, because we love it. Let's talk about the special effects and design that went into this, because, oh my God, so much went into this. It was so fun. Before this film, in 1985, Tim Curry did a film called Legend. And Legend required him to be the devil. So he was the devil. And it required a full body cast of him. And he was wearing prosthetics for the filming of that film, from like head to waist.
Sounds difficult.
Sounds very difficult. And he was basically saying, if I have to do this for this movie, I don't know that I can. But they did do like just a head cast of him. It's not an easy feat to go through the casting process, because it's, you have to sit for hours, you have to sit still, they have to get an accurate, kind of casting.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of this now, like with people having to like dress up like the way films are shot, you have to go in at 6 a.m, have makeup done onto you, especially if you're wearing a lot of prosthetics, for like 3 to 4, 5, 6 hours. And then you go through your whole shooting day wearing all this stuff that is uncomfortable, I've heard. And then you do your whole shoot, and then by the end of the day, you have to spend another 3 to 4 hours just taking it off.
Yep. It's crazy. So they did do a cast of him, and they did experiment with different prosthetics, but ultimately they landed. He was very adamant. He was like, I really don't want to wear all of this. And he literally said, if you want me to wear this scary makeup, then I think you have the wrong actor, because he said, I will do the scaring. And so they kind of like budged. So the only thing that he really wore was like a headpiece, and that was just to like.
I wonder what the original design was. So what the idea was.
They
initially.
really were trying to do like cheek implants, the bulbous kind of top of the head, and extended, very caricature, like cartoon kind of vibe. What you would think of like an exaggerated clown. And he was like, I don't want to wear that. I don't want to have to do that. He did, in fact, of course, with the scene when Eddie is like, this is battery acid, you slime, psh, psh, with his little asthma stuff. That he did wear prosthetics for that. And that was some of the original design, because the, I forget his name. I think it was Bart something. He designed it where he wanted it to be like the smooth clown for like the children aspect, and then for the adult he wanted it to be like a decrepit kind of like creepy, horrible looking clown.
We see that in the novel.
And he was like, I want to do that, but then they were like, I don't think it's really necessary. I think that we should kind of keep it the same. And then so they ended up doing that part, but for half of his face when he did that. And they also did so much stop motion. I don't know if you've noticed in the film. I love it. It's so fun. The mixed media is amazing.
I think it is a lot of fun. Bailey showed me the other day, we were watching a TikTok of the live Broadway performance of Beetlejuice. And the film Beetlejuice uses stop motion and those giant worms. And then
it's so great.
In the live musical, they have like a representation of one of those big worms during the show.
Sandworms. I love
It is really interesting.
In general, I think stop motion used, especially in a horror aspect, it's just phenomenal. That's
Perfect.
like where it's supposed to be. Think of like Courage the Cowardly Dog. It would have these mixed media scenes to like objectively horrify the viewer. And so many of them were stop motion just because of how weird and alien and gross
kind of
and stuff it can be. It's very uncanny.
So it leaves you
it's
unsettled.
so great.
Yeah.
I love to feel unsettled, and I think that even though I'm not particularly afraid of clowns, like his performance and just the simplicity of his makeup and like just the teeth in general and the contacts, he does such an amazing job.
Well, what do you think? Does his performance of Pennywise scare you?
There were parts where I was like, damn, he's creepy. Like I would be scared if I were a kid in their position. Like that's terrifying.
But not
that
so much
aspect.
nowadays as an adult.
Not so much as an adult, but I mean, if you think about it, like low key, if a clown like pulled up on your door, I'd be a little bit.
Oh, I'd
like,
be horrified.
Yeah, I'd be pretty shook.
I'd be scared if just a dude pulled up. So if it's a clown, get out of here.
If it's a clown, I'm literally just gonna hide in my closet.
Yeah.
Like I'm not coming out of the house.
I mean,
like,
Bailey will tell you. I was like verbally frightened a couple times.
He was.
I was jump scared for sure during the film. And
That's
we're talking about stop motion.
That is so exciting
That
because
spider scared the
He
crap
was
out of me.
terrified of the spider.
I genuinely
Terrified.
yelled for like 10 seconds straight.
so
He really did.
What's really cool is they did stop motion, and they also had like a humongous animatronic
cool.
as well, which I'm terrified of stuff like that. So there was also a puppeteer, so they had an actual body
cool.
in there, and his whole body was in it. And then when they actually pushed it over, his body was in there, and he was
Wow.
like, yeah, it should be fine. They forgot to put pads in there, so he felt like on like aluminum, and he had like bruises. And in the documentary they show you the bruises up and down his arms and stuff, and he was like, it's fine. Like I was pretty banged up, but for the most part it's fine. I agreed to do it. And it's like, dang, the dedication.
Dedication, and those kind of people never get looked at, the stunt workers, and they go through stuff like this. They get hurt.
Yeah.
And it's for this product that we get at the end of the day. And knowing this behind the scenes stuff and the production that went behind it, so fascinating, right?
It is so fascinating.
So intriguing.
When I finished, watching the movie, it popped up on my recommended movies, and it was like, oh yes, like watch this documentary. And I was like, I wonder if it's any good. I don't know if I want to watch it because it might be long. I don't know if I'm gonna have time. But I was like, I'm gonna fucking watch it. I need to know more behind the scenes stuff because it's gonna be fascinating, especially because I think that this one still gets a kind of bad rep compared to the newer ones, just because it's not as wonderful quality as the new ones, And in
I like it. I think it's a vibe.
in the new ones, I know you're gonna be freaked the fuck out because of the jump scare kind of stuff.
Oh,
like
okay.
if you jumped already and
I jumped during this one.
these didn't really have jump scares.
Not really.
Like you're gonna probably freak out.
This is a little tangent, but we've been to the theater together, all
Yes.
four of us together, each with our respective partners, and I use the bathroom a lot.
Yeah.
I'm typically not a person that watches trailers. I don't like trailers. I feel like trailers nowadays give away the whole movie.
I don't care. I like it.
And so I don't go to see them a lot, and I use the bathroom whenever I can. And so I miss a lot of these trailers. Me and Bailey went to go see a movie for once, like we're there during the trailers. Usually we get there like right when the movie starts, if I'm being honest. And I had never seen the trailer for Imaginary before.
It looks creepy as fuck.
And you guys saw it, but Bailey was like, I got so scared. There was a point where like there's a jump scare, it pans over. I'm terrified. I yell in the theater. And Bailey's like, you've never seen that before? We've seen it like 3 times.
Yeah, I was surprised because it's like it's at the very end of the trailer. This girl is trying to plug in this light bulb into the socket while she's staring at the monster, and it doesn't work. So she turns to look at the socket, and right as she plugs in the light, it illuminates another monster right in front of her face.
It scared me.
That's terrifying.
It was a terrifying jump scare. It got me the first time, but I was expecting it this time, and then Frankie's sitting right next to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, we've seen this trailer like 3 times now because we go to the movie theater all the time.
No, I have not.
And then he like screams when it happens.
So I look forward to screaming for the new It movies.
Oh, they're great. I love them. So another really cool fun fact is that they based some of the bulbous and like the head and like the cheekbones that they wanted to do originally on some of the features from Lon Chaney playing Phantom of the Opera in the silent film back in the day, which if you've seen him, he was very almost skeleton like esque, like very creepy, like big like eyes and like skeleton like nose and just big cheekbones, then the creepy smile. So it's really cool to know that that's like the history behind it because it's one of the ultimate horror classics.
You're a big fan of Phantom of the Opera.
Love Phantom of the Opera. It's one of my favorites, hands down. If you don't like silent films, I implore you to try them because sometimes you can make your own commentary and it's fun.
It is so interesting that you talked about Phantom of the Opera because literally earlier today, I've never had this thought before. I've never listened to the Phantom of the Opera soundtrack, but today I was like, I want to listen to the Phantom of the Opera soundtrack. I want to listen to it. So I did.
So good.
And it's just interesting that you're talking about it now. It's like I had a vision.
A premonition.
Yeah.
It's like you were meant.
It's a great soundtrack, by the way.
Also, there was so much blood in this movie. Even if it kind of looked like fake paint or whatever, it still was fun to see the blood. The sink, that was fun. They didn't talk about how much of the behind the scenes with that, unfortunately, so I didn't get much of that.
The thing that got me the most was definitely the balloons popping and the blood splattering. And also Pennywise saying those 2 lines that I've heard in a lot of media.
Yeah.
Like the
You'll
Prince
float too.
In the Prince Albert in the can, and is your refrigerator running? I'm like, oh, is this the origin of that? Is this the first time? And I Googled it. No, it wasn't.
But I love that because it's really corny. You would expect that from a clown, like bad jokes from a clown, right?
I don't know.
I feel like I
don't have much experience with the clown.
Typically, clowns, they're, at least in my experience, growing up, being around my father dressed as a clown, my stepdad being dressed as a clown, typically they're over-exaggerated, like humor. They want to make you like laugh. They want to like shock you kind of thing. So they have like those little air horns, like the boop, boop kind of horns.
That was a good one.
That was so good. That was really good.
Yeah, as you can tell, you've been around it.
Yeah, I've been around it a lot. So they'll do that. They'll have like crazy laughs. Like I don't know if I can even try.
His
to do
laugh was ridiculous. Yeah, perfect. You did it great.
I love it. But like the noisemakers, anything like that, like they are known for being that kind. Like they want your reactions.
Do you think you could give that kind of performance? Like just like, yeah, it's all improvised, I'm sure. And you're just there trying to be wacky, like one thing to the next.
I think it would depend.
Have you guys seen Bobbin?
No.
I think her name is Bobbins. She's a Universal clown during Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, maybe.
I love her. She is so fun. So I highly recommend that you look that up. I think her name it's either Bobbins or Ribbons.
That's cute. That's really cute. I like that.
But she has a great personality as a clown. Okay, yeah, it's Bobbins the Clown. Highly recommend that everybody checks her out. But just in general, the clowns at Halloween Horror Nights, I don't know. I feel like there is something deep inside of me that wants to be ripped out like that.
You want to
like
be
a character
clown.
that way? I don't know. Does it not intrigue you? Like
Being a
this sort
clown.
of like, but like.
I kind of feel like I'm already a clown, so I feel like
you
I'd
are.
have a hard
yeah,
time.
you are. Yeah, but I'm like reserved and quiet, and I'm like.
So there's like a part of you that's like banging at
That's
you
what
from
I'm
the
saying.
inside,
That's what
trying
I'm
to get
saying.
out.
I feel it deep inside me. I want to be
Like
disturbing.
just like a primal thing.
yeah.
That would be fun. That would be really fun. I just don't know that, like,
I don't know how to express myself though. So I guess I feel like I need like makeup and clothes and whatever to kind of like dig it out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, but like they make a lot of noise, they follow you around, make you laugh, try to scare you.
You know, the weird thing about you, Geraldine, this is a big tangent from, we're talking about clowns still, but I feel like the older you get, the more into yourself you reach. I feel like the more introverted you get and the less comfortable you are with just like being exposed as you used to be.
I think that also is partially because I work from home, but I like that. I don't.
Yeah, see? You're becoming more and more reclusive.
Yes. I don't really like to. Yeah, I don't really like people a lot. So I don't want to. I mean, I work with people anyway, so a lot of my social battery is used up by the time I'm done working.
Yeah.
But I do like scary things, and I don't know.
That's all you need, huh? You need just Netflix and then all the scary movies they have.
So one of my favorite scenes, more notable that stood out to me whenever I first watched it ever in my life, was the restaurant scene, the fortune cookies. Fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. They had that table rigged from the underneath to do all of this stuff, and they didn't let any of them look at that. So those were their real reactions as well for the filming.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And
the little chicken fetus was the creepiest one to me.
Yeah.
And that one's just like real.
I love the eyeball one. I don't know why. That one's like my favorite though. The eyeball one.
Yeah, that one's also pretty gory.
Would you like this experience? Like it's like promoted this way. Like you come to a restaurant and that's what they do, but you don't know what's happening next. Kind of like Dick's Last Resort, but horror.
Like in Beetlejuice and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's what I was
would
thinking.
love it.
Beetlejuice.
You'd go?
Yes. I love a good theme. We've talked about that. I love a good
You love
theme.
themes. Maybe that's what we need to get you out, So
that would be awesome. But also, like, the food in this movie in general looks amazing. Other than that part where with all the grossness and the fortune cookies, I feel so bad because of course they're the only ones who can see this thing. Of course, they're all trauma bonded. They can see this stuff, and of course the poor lady in the restaurant's like, "Was everything good?" Like worried about them, and they're like, they can't really be like, "Yeah, girl, sorry, we have like an eyeball on our fortune cookie." They're probably gonna be like, "Get out of here!" Like what? Like people trying to get food for free after they eat all their plate, like eat all of the stuff on their plate. I didn't like it. I didn't like a single bite of it, that kind of thing.
Did you come across that as a server?
Yes, I did.
What was your reaction?
The customer's always right, is what we're told.
You don't
That's
agree?
not true. No.
Okay.
Customers typically like 95% wrong all the time. I know that doesn't make sense, but hear me out. But yes, so those are some really cool things that I feel like we got to see in the movie. There's also the full body cast of the actual guy who played Beverly's father, who did the creepy, decrepit, like old lady thing whenever Bev goes back to the house as an adult. Oh, creepy as hell. That really got me.
That one was really creepy. Yeah.
I forgot about that part, and I was like, oh. And then, of course, the makeup on Belch, the kid who died, who was one of the bullies. Love that makeup. Like, we just get so many cool things that I just feel like I didn't appreciate until I watched it again. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot how good this was.
And it's real people that are putting their heart into this art.
They had a whole team, so many people. It was really, really cool. And then we can talk about the making of the movie. So first, let's talk about the star of the show, the iconic, symbol that is not really meant to be the big symbol, but it's Pennywise. So they had various options for actors. And they were not even looking at Tim Curry first. They were looking at Harvey Fierstein, and they were kind of sold on him. And he was known for being in Mrs. Doubtfire. He was the hairdresser for Robin Williams in that movie. Like when Robin Williams was like, "Oh, I need to go do this thing," and they gave him the makeover, that whole makeover scene. He was the dark-haired hairdresser and makeup artist on Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire. So I couldn't imagine him playing it. So it's just weird to think about that. Roddy McDowell and Malcolm McDowell, they had considered them as well. They wanted a network, like approved actor for this. And one of the McDowells, I can't remember which one, is known for A Clockwork Orange. And he's also known for being in Rob Zombie's Halloween. Yes, as Dr. Loomis. Alice Cooper, they considered him as well for it. Couldn't imagine.
That would have been spooky.
Kind of would have been, but also like, I just really can't imagine anyone but Tim Curry.
That's how we say
this
that every
role.
episode of the podcast. It's like once we see the performance of these actors, it's hard to imagine somebody else in the same shoes.
I know, but like Tim Curry just acts like no other. Like there's no other like Tim Curry. Like he's just so talented. Growing up, like if you see him in Rocky Horror Picture Show and you see him in Clue and Legend in a full body almost prosthetic, like it's insane the talent that this man has like in his body. And in this one, he's still unrecognizable. Like of course he has clown makeup on, but you can still tell it's him. I mean, even though he changes his voice because he's British, so he's from the UK and stuff. But like he didn't even have to audition. Like they just knew his performance in Rocky Horror. And they're like, do you want to do it? And he was like, yes, actually, I would.
Just not with all the crap on.
Yeah, just not with all of this stuff on. I mean, because like if you imagine, like it almost like in Legend, he was nearly unrecognizable with all of the prosthetics on. Like I didn't know it was him for a long time until like doing research and stuff, and then I was like, wow, he is amazing and I love him. But that it kind of takes away from the performance sometimes, at least in my opinion, unless it's more voice acting. It kind of would be just more voice acting at that point, but he really wanted to, to scare people. And he did very much. So again, we talked about the cast. They got some of the best of TV's actors for the adult parts, which I think is pretty notable. We recognized some of them. I think the only ones that I specifically recognized the most was the guy playing Bill and, of course, Mike.
Yeah, that's the only, between any of the actors, the only ones I really recognize Seth Green the most. And then Tim Reed, who plays the adult version of Mike, I also recognize.
So casting of the children counterparts. So they're looking for three things specifically. They were looking for a sense of humor, which they definitely got. Painful and heartfelt kind of performance, and they wanted them to play scared. Very good. And at the heart, this movie is a coming-age movie, so childhood trauma, and they all wanted to be able to bond. Like, they actually truly were bonded, and they wanted them to be friends so that it was believable on screen and off screen, of course.
I heard something similarly about the I mentioned earlier, the Disney Plus Percy Jackson television show where, like, the kids are friends with each other, and the relationship between them was, like, their biggest thing with casting. And that makes sense, to make that kind of... Especially with this story where we have 7 kids, they all love each other. It has to be sold.
It's chemistry. They need on-set chemistry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how working with 7 children and 7 adults could pose problems a lot of the time. They did say that the children would act up every so often. Because, Seth Green being a little goofball, we all know him, how he is. He said that, they got in trouble on screen or on the set and off the set because they were children, of course. Naturally, they're going to be children. And so they did have to have the director, be like, hey, I'm glad that you're having fun and that you love like what you're doing right now, but we have to get this job done.
Do you think you could handle a room of teenagers? No,
not at all. And especially then, it was different. Now, no way.
Yeah. I mean, Bailey used to be a substitute teacher, so she used to have to do that daily.
You know, it really depends on the group that you've got.
It really would depend.
And the day, Yeah, it can be rough sometimes.
But apparently they said that the adults were just as bad, if not worse, than the children.
That's funny.
I mean, that's good. You can feel that sort of energy between them, I think.
Because a few of them had worked together before, and they said that they would, get together and start cracking jokes. And they said that even though the actress playing Beverly as an adult is very professional, very poised, they said she had like very, what is the word, raucous sense of humor. So I was like, oh my goodness, like I can only imagine the kind of like craziness that went on, which is
scandalous.
Which is really fun to know that, they were also children at heart, which I feel like is kind of imperative.
I agree. Yeah.
That.
With a story about kids, everybody kind of has to be a kid, especially when the trauma they're facing as an adult is about kids.
Exactly. It took many years to condense this. I think Lawrence Cohen wrote it over several, like maybe 2 to 3 years. And he said that it was nowhere near as long as King spent writing it. And again, they had an idea to originally shoot this miniseries similar to how Game of Thrones, the storytelling was done. So very long and drawn out. So the 8 hours was cut down to 4 hours. George Romero dropped out. They got Tommy Lee Wallace instead. And then Tommy Lee Wallace and Lawrence Cohen were together writing the script. Well, since it was already written, they were working together to kind of like really like pan it out, plan everything. And they did it in one night. And then the second night that they were going to work on it, Lawrence Cohen got pulled. He couldn't, so Tommy Lee Wallace took different liberties, made the revisions himself. Yeah, then they ended up going to Vancouver to shoot. But here we'll go ahead and play a fun making of it clip so you can kind of learn about a little bit of the process that went into it.
Tim was a director's dream.
A little farther, Tim. Find the light. Somewhere in there. Not much there. Okay. There's some.
I liked Tommy Lee a lot. He was very direct, which was nice.
Tommy Lee Wallace was a brilliantly minimalist director.
Remember in Fright, I talked about a frame, and I hope we still have it standing by.
He basically trusts his casting and just gives the actors their head and lets them do what they do well.
He was very clear about what he wanted.
Now, his hand comes up first and then pulls himself up. There, that's it.
Which was great. I really liked that.
Your chin's a little low. That's perfect.
Because then it becomes a pleasure to deliver.
I'll drive you crazy and I'll kill you all. I'm every nightmare you've ever had. Every worst dream come true. I'm everything you were ever afraid of.
He did give me a lot of room.
Pennywise was a very dangerous invention. And I use dangerous in the best sense of the word. What I mean by it is that they're pitched at a level that tonally can go very wrong very quickly with the wrong casting, with the wrong direction, with any number of fill-in-the-blank mistake possibilities. Tim was the genius choice that radiated perfection everywhere, every time he appeared.
Not only that, but they also say that 90% of the director's job is so much easier when you have the right person like cast in your part. And he said that Tim Curry was like the perfect choice for the role. And
it sounds like this was a perfect choice in director too.
Oh my gosh, yes. It just seems like everyone knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Which is perfect. I can't imagine a better cast film than what they had. But yeah, so now let's get into the fun thing that we were going to talk about earlier.
Okay.
The history of kind of clowns, and I don't even know how to pronounce it. Coulrophobia, I guess, is being afraid of clowns. I personally don't have it, but I can see the fear and I can see the creepy aspects that come with clowns, or clowning around, rather.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things. I think one part is that when you're a kid, you're used to other kids being wacky and goofy, but when you see an adult acting that way when you're not used to it and they're so big and large. I mean, you talk about being scared of like large things.
Yeah.
A clown is kind of like that in a way. They seem like a big kid.
Now, if it is a big clown, then yes, I am scared. Because anything big is scary. Anything really big, oversized, no thanks.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about clowns, so educate me.
So I don't exactly know the full scope of the history, but
I know it's like a controversial history with like how clowns were initially like in African Americans. Like I don't really know much about it.
I don't know like the full
Jeremy
scope
didn't
of
know
the
that.
history. No.
Yeah. So usually, I'm not an expert. I don't know a whole thing, but if you think about it, back Jim Crow was very popular. Obviously, they used caricatures of black people in the circus to be fools and to do these things that we see clowns doing all the time.
Interesting.
And then, we got slightly better laws regarding Jim Crow laws, and having those caricatures was obviously not very good. So the circus changed the way that it looked with making the black makeup. Instead of black, now it's white makeup. But they kept the afro, they kept the big red nose, the big red lips, the big shoes. Think of like their clothing is usually like these overalls that are like hanging off of them and stuff like that. So it's definitely inspired. We're very far removed now, I think, in clown culture, but obviously it was based on a Jim Crow caricature. of Black people, unfortunately.
No, I did not know that. That is definitely something new to learn. That is extremely sad to hear, because I never would have like put two and two together. Because I guess because
like I said, we're so far removed now
Yeah.
from what it used to be, but I do think it's important to know
Well,
that.
it's just given the history of this country, a lot of the things that we enjoy day to day now are just steeped in racism.
The history of clowns were not really that creepy originally. They were just kind of like fun, goofy little guys for the most part. They would, throw like juggle things, make you laugh.
Where are you on the juggling? When I was in elementary school, we had to do a little bit of juggling with some scarves.
I cannot juggle.
Me neither.
I can't juggle.
Can you do one thing? One ball?
I mean,
Can you do two balls?
Two? But I can throw. I can't do it at the same time though.
Okay.
So yeah, they were like just goofy little guys, and I think a lot of things were really innocent at first, but then I think that there is some level of sadness, or like people thought it was kind of strange because why, in their eyes, why would a grown person wear this makeup to appeal to children? And that's where like a lot of like, but that's also like deeply rooted in like Southern kind of vibes, because Bible Belt kind of thing. But I don't necessarily know when or why people started becoming afraid of them, other than John Wayne Gacy is the only thing that I can think of. I
think that was kind of the crux of everything.
And he actually had painted a picture of Pennywise, which is really creepy. But
this was before the film.
This was before but I think he had gotten caught around the time of the film. He had killed well over 25 people, I'm assuming 25 boys or something like that. Buried them under his house.
Yeah.
He wore clown makeup. He was a creepy guy.
But so the novel came out before the film, or the novel came out before he.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess there was a fear of clowns beforehand, probably as just being like a weird sort of.
Well, that's why I wonder how much Pennywise, like from the novel initially, has to do with the fear of clowns. I feel like if it wasn't necessarily an originator, I do think it definitely like contributed heavily.
Well, a lot of people will say that Tim Curry is the reason that they're afraid of clowns, because seeing him as Pennywise, and even the young boy who played Georgie, when they were doing the scene, I wish I had downloaded this one, but I didn't. They were talking about the scene, and they said the little boy was like, well, he was like, oh, we all float kind of thing. And then the little boy was like, Tim, you're scaring me. And he was like, well, that's my job. I'm supposed to scare you. So I think that's also kind of funny. And they were like, oh, I wonder if he's in therapy now. And Tim Curry was like, I hope so. He found joy in the fact that he was terrifying as well. But
it's fun to scare kids. It is fun. I understand.
But he also said a lot of the time when these people would tell him, like, oh my gosh, you scared me. You're the reason I'm afraid of clowns and stuff. I watched it when I was young. He was like, well, first of all, you shouldn't have been watching it, because it wasn't really geared towards children. It was just a movie about adults, like, in their coming of age story of them being children and recollecting.
It's about being a child as opposed to it being for children.
Yes, and I think that's kind of where it went wrong. And I think people may have accidentally watched it, or got their hands on it and thought it was future children, so it must be children, family friendly, anything like. God, I could only imagine the controversy it stirred. That is funny to me. I love when things like, for example, one thing that it makes me really happy and it brings a little bit of joy in my heart, my cold heart. I went to see the Book of Mormon, the play, the musical, in person once. I got a free ticket and I was like, let's go. It's gonna be fun. And it's a very sacrilegious play.
Yeah.
It's a very controversial, inappropriate kind of play, making fun of religion, poking fun. These very religious old people were in front of me, and there's a very notable song that is like Asadiga Ibawe. It's they're traveling and doing this thing, and he's like, and they interact with an African culture as well, and they're like, that means fuck you God, and these old people were like, oh my God. Like, it made me laugh because they didn't, like, how did you not know what you were walking into?
What did they think they were signing up for?
I don't know.
This happens a lot. I'm in we watch a lot of movies, so all of us have the Regal Unlimited where we can see whatever movies we want. I'm in a Facebook group for it. I think I mentioned it before. And people, we went to see this movie recently called Drive Away Dolls. and people
Okay.
are blown away with like how I can't even find the word for it. How lewd it is. It's very, very lewd, and it's funny because every time I see people walking into that theater, they're like plus 60, and I know.
Yeah, I was thinking about
know
it. I was thinking about it hardcore when we were
They
in the
don't know.
theater because we were in there with like 6 other people that were all over the age of 50.
And
like
yeah, it's very graphic.
it's very graphic.
Very
I just
raunchy.
want you to know one of the opening scenes is gay sex,
Okay.
and at the very end of the movie, you see the title card "Drive Away Dolls," but then these papers fly away, and it's actually "Drive Away Dykes" is the title of the movie, but they obviously couldn't make it that.
Yeah, and so a lot of people
so-
on the Facebook group are complaining like, "Don't watch movies nowadays. They're getting way too out of hand. Like they should
It's a
find another
great
rating
movie. It's
besides
a
rated
great
R."
movie.
And I think that happens. I know we did a season on Saw. There was a mix-up at a theater in Texas where I think
Oh my God, was it like the Paw Patrol kind of thing, or they went to go see
basically
like a kid movie?
yeah, and then they played Saw. They played Saw by accident. This was the theater's fault.
that's fucking hilarious.
And so you have
Now
a room full of parents and children.
room full of traumatized
watching
children.
Saw. Yeah.
That, I mean, a little trauma
I mean, you can
adds
get
a
up
bit
and
of
leave the
spice.
room. You can get up and leave the room. It'll be fine.
I mean, it
Yeah,
opens.
well, when you see twisted pictures, when you see that go, yeah,
You're
I
like,
think you gotta get the idea that this is not the movie that you were planning
That's
on seeing.
hilarious. But like, I live for that
You
stuff.
love it.
I love it.
Yeah, you're
It's
so devious.
funny.
You're like, yes, let's
You call
traumatize
me a
other
troll.
children.
I'm not like trolling them. I think it's funny when they react because they're like, and I'm like, what'd you think you were going to? Like,
You
be
laugh
honest.
at their mispleasure.
Yes. Of course, Killer Clowns from Outer Space came out before this, and then of course Poltergeist also came out before this movie as well. Those had creepy fucking clowns. They also reference it in one of the Scary Movie movies. I think it's the first one, if I'm being honest, or the second one. I don't remember. Tim Curry also makes an appearance in Scary Movie 2, which is really fun, so you should watch it just for Tim Curry. And it makes fun of a lot of fun movies, but the Poltergeist is known for having this creepy clown puppet that comes to life, and it's terrifying. And back in the day, that was really, really terrifying for people, and they were like, my grandmother said that was one of the first times that she ever felt scared of clowns, but she never has been afraid of clowns before, but that was creepy to her, like the doll coming to life.
I've never seen it.
It's very creepy. It's a really good movie. I love it a lot. That's one of those cursed films that we'll have to spend some time talking about. Some cursed films. One of the cursed sets. A person died every time they made one of those movies. It's really strange. I'm not entirely sure why or what happened, but it's a very cursed franchise. Here is another example of creepy clowns. To me, Ronald McDonald has always been kind of creepy. I never really vibed with him, except for in the VHS movie about Ronald McDonald and their little cartoon friends from. I don't know if you ever watched it. Growing up, I have this fever dream memory of it. It is like a little Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, they go to like Burger Town. With,
Something like that. And there's like this evil guy, and they're all like babies. It's like Ronald McDonald as a baby.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's the cutest ever, and I love it. So cute. However,
Ronald McDonald is fine as a baby. It's once he gets tall, he gets a little uncanny.
yes. As a child, I never was afraid of Ronald McDonald until I had a terrifying dream at the age of 8. And here is my nightmare retelling. So this is me telling you about this crazy dream that I had when I was 8. I think I may have told you about it before, so stop me if I have. But when I was 8 years old, I had a dream that it was like an in-ground kind of trampoline. And there's a bunch of kids, and it's like a fun area. All these kids are jumping on the trampoline with Ronald McDonald. Someone does something, makes Ronald McDonald fucking angry.
Oh, no.
And he turns into Pennywise.
Wow.
And he starts killing all the parents. And so I am like crawling away, trying to get away from him. And I go run out to my parents' truck, which I didn't drive a truck. I don't know why they had a truck in my dream. But I'm trying to run out to them to warn them, like, hey, you're about to be killed by Pennywise. He's going to kill you. I didn't make it in time.
No.
Spikes went through their necks, and they started bleeding green ooze. And as a child, that felt very real. I woke up crying my eyes out.
Well, that's what you get for watching the movies as a kid.
That's not what I get. I didn't
obviously
deserve
it is.
that. But I definitely ran to my mother's room and was like crying and stuff. And I was like, I had a bad dream. Terrifying though, and in context though, like Ronald McDonald turning into Pennywise.
Do you
terrifying.
think you could have gone the next day to a McDonald's and have Ronald be like, "Hey, kid"?
No, actually, probably.
Yeah, you wouldn't have minded.
I guess so, but because he turned into Pennywise when he was angry, so it was just
Don't make him angry.
Yeah, just don't make him angry.
Yeah, unless a Hamburglar shows up.
You never know, but that was a very fun.
You played on stream Ronald McDonald horror game, didn't you?
No.
Okay.
No. I played a clown game, I think, once, but it was not very good. It was kind of a shitty clown game. Okay. But I think that I do have a fast food horror themed game either in my library or on my wish list. Some like Happy Cow Farm or something like that, but it's not. It's like creepy. So maybe we'll play it one day. This whole thing has influenced a cult classic. It has a really notable community. My stepdad is a huge collector and fan of Pennywise and clowns in general. This also sparked a remake in 2017 and 2019 for It and It Chapter 2, starring Bill Skarsgård. Fantastic movies, really good. Horror fans and conventions, of course. It has a huge community of people who dress up as clowns and people who go to these events to meet the actors and stuff like that. And I think that then those kids didn't know the gem that they had. So a lot of them they didn't really comprehend exactly what they were part of. But it is now a huge fan base. And they also created the documentary that I watched that landed in 2022. Very, very cool documentary if you wanted to learn more about some of the behind the scenes, the thought process, the birth of the story and such. And then, of course, haunted houses. We all know them. We all love them. Well, at least not all of us love them. But
I've never been to one.
They're fun. They always have a clown section because people are deathly afraid of clowns.
Have you ever been scared in a haunted house?
Yeah, I screamed to those things.
Do you think I'd get scared in one?
Yeah.
Yes, Frank, I'm telling you, I went to Holiday World once on a college trip with marching band. And at Holiday World, they had a haunted house. I'm putting quotation marks around that because looking back on it, it was not very good. It was just like a warehouse that they had these fake curtain walls and divvied up into a room or into multiple rooms and little hallways, but there weren't very many decorations. There was just a fog machine and
it
a
sounds
table.
Like that Glasgow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what it was, but with better lighting, okay? It was not that creepy, but I'm telling you, walking through it, I was terrified. Something about the low lighting and the music and being in a constrained hallway kind of a thing. For me, it was my fight or flight. My fight or flight instincts came out, and I was like, I cannot move forward. This is hard. And I've never felt that way before in an instance where I know it's fake.
So you don't think I'm stronger than you?
No, I don't. I really don't. I'm sorry.
You don't think I could handle it?
No.
Okay, well.
No, not when you're over here. I can watch these movies and jump scares will happen. You've seen me. I predict them, so I don't always jump at them. But every single time a jump scare comes on screen, you're screaming and you're jumping and you're crying and...
Well, I just gotta say, that's in a movie. When it comes to real life,
the Predator comes out in real life, huh?
Yeah. The alpha male comes out, the Sigma.
No, those are two completely different things on the same scale.
That's what you think.
You can't be both an alpha and a Sigma.
You obviously don't understand.
Oh my God. Now, somebody who doesn't get scared at haunted houses is Patrick, and he annoys the fuck out of me.
He doesn't get scared?
He doesn't get scared.
Why?
I don't know. They don't really mess with him either. They don't mess with him. They mess with me because I guess they can tell that
it's
I'm
probably
scared.
Because Patrick's just standing there so stoically, and he's like, whatever.
He's literally sightseeing. He's like, oh, that's sick.
See, that's how I want to be. That's how I want to be. In my brain, that's how I would be walking through a haunted house because I love the decor. I want to check out the decor. I want to check out the costuming. I want to appreciate it. But I feel the bone-chilling fear in my spine, and I can't help it.
Do they let you film in there? Maybe we can bring a camera.
So sometimes they will. I think a lot of them don't want you to upload the footage, though, of the whole. I think their concern is they don't want their place to be.
That makes sense.
However,
It's also hard to film them a lot of the time because they're
It is.
so low lighting.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the time you'd have to get like night vision kind of
Yeah.
GoPro situation. So you'd look terrifying in the thing anyway, going through, and then it would just probably show you get scared. You'd be like,
Frank,
kind
you
of
know
thing.
they've got some permanent haunted houses in Gatlinburg. They're there 24/7.
Right. Well, I want to go with Gerald and Patrick so the four of us can kind of
Yeah,
gauge
yeah.
each other.
Yeah, I'm just saying that
We
like
would make everything worse, you and I. I promise you that.
Yeah, I think
I
you would,
promise
yeah.
you. Because I scream a lot.
I think
I squeeze Patrick's hoodie from behind and I shove him into things.
see, you got to do that to Frank.
I wish there was any footage of this. I'd love to see it.
It's so bad to the point where he turned around at one point and grabbed me and started throwing me in front of things.
And how was your reaction to that?
I my knees almost buckled and I almost like gave out.
Yeah,
It was like he was gonna shove me into a big Frankenstein head and I was like, oh.
Oh, wow.
It was bad.
I'd love to go.
But yes, so here is a clip of my stepdad, Jeff, who is known for playing a clown. And I was asking his experience with this film and kind of some questions about what he thought Pennywise was and why it's so scary to people.
I thought it was awesome, especially Tim Curry. His character Pennywise was just amazing because you don't see their actual face. You just see a made-up person. He's a creature that loves to eat fear. He loves to terrorize. That's what he fed on. So anybody that's afraid, he feeds on that. That's why I loved it. And actually, my character, I took a lot from Pennywise because he was funny, but yet he was terrifying. That's what I enjoyed doing, was having fun with people and then scaring the holy hell out of them.
That's so lovely to hear. And I really who doesn't like scaring kids, right?
Who doesn't like scaring kids? I love it.
I think I love that he also brings up that how like Pennywise feeds off fear. And I think a lot of the movie is about controlling your fears and being able to face them, but also like manage them.
But also, you get a little bit of like, typically whenever you have nightmares in general, they always say, oh, it's your deepest fears or your your dreams or your desires and stuff like that too. I think he plays on both because, which I have a clip of this as well, but we see a little bit of both and he's really fucking funny. I love like how like horrible he is sometimes. Some of my favorite scenes, which we did see the making of the scene, but I wanted to show it again just so we could see the actual scene, just because the special effects that went into it were really, really cool too. Mike's book that they're looking through the photo album when they'd actually discover Pennywise and they all see it together. Love the scene. It's iconic. Very good graphics for 1990 as well, mind you. And that book, they had like a system. It took them weeks to build that turned every page individually. So they had it was just so cool. So cool to know that. But we also have the graveyard scene. Love the scene. He is so mean and makes fun of Bill. But I just love how he's taunting them. And then my favorite, where I'm talking about the desire, is we see Bev go into the room later at the hotel with Ben. And she's like, January embers. That whole thing, the whole poem. And then he's like, oh my God, girl, yes, it's me. And then they start making out. And then he slowly realizes, he's like, girl, what the hell are you wearing? Because he looks in the mirror and she's wearing the clown outfit. And then he's like, he just says this iconic line, and I was like, Tim Curry is just a fucking goat. He's the greatest. I love him. He's just so good at playing evil and funny at the same time. Like, even though like this character is not supposed to be like funny outright, there's something humorous about the clown being so scary in context. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Tim Curry definitely does take advantage of that. I mean, he's able to pursue that. I think it's very devious.
Yeah. It's a very fun role.
My dad says there's no way to date this one. He says it's probably from the earlier mid-1700s, when Derry was a logging town.
Hold it. Pennywise the clown?
That's him. That's him.
200 years ago. He was here then?
Come on. It's just a drawing.
Now look. Here he is again. The same man.
It's not a man. It. That's what happened back in Georgie's room.
kill you all. I'll drive you crazy and I'll kill you all. I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Got to live another 27 years at least.
But isn't that cool to know that they had individually, like for each page? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just so cool. Like the whole concept behind that, because you see that a lot in movies.
Get your pick, Billy boy. Oh, except for the one on the end. That's already taken. Sorry.
I remember you. And I remember we beat you. I'm not afraid of you.
Man, those 90s synthesizers pan flutes.
Yeah, they're
are
great.
such a
They're
vibe.
great. They are such a vibe. They remind me of 90s TV so
Yeah.
much.
He's so good at being creepy, and it's like I'm not even afraid of clowns, but I'm afraid of him. And because I don't know, but also like the taunting, like he's like, even though I know that you don't stutter now, Billy, like I know like you did, like he's like, I'm gonna bring up all of your like everything that you like ever thought, like I know, like I was just like, ooh, this is creepy.
Kiss me, fat boy.
It's just too good.
What? Yeah, but you're laughing. It's supposed to be scary and you're laughing.
No, but that's like he's taunting him.
He is taunting him, yeah.
Because like he knows that he could have got with that.
Yeah.
He almost had him, you know? It's just
That is a
funny.
nightmare. That is such a nightmare.
That is such a nightmare.
Yeah, for real.
But man, like it's just so good. Like he's creepy as hell, but it's also funny.
There's no situation where you want to be in dreams or real life, but I've had dreams like this where you want to be interacting with something and then it turns into something else.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Awful. Worst thing
I've had
imaginable.
crazy dreams like that where
I don't like
it's
it.
like, oh, I'm in this room and I see like this doll and then it started levitating and it was like a ghost and I was like, oh, let me get out of here real quick.
I mean, that's what Jared's dream was with Ronald McDonald. He went from Ronald McDonald, he turned into Pennywise.
That was terrifying. When I tell you, nightmare fuel. Like he has haunted so many dreams, I'm sure.
Yeah. The real life equivalent is all those YouTube videos that are like people reaching into boxes and they don't know what's on the other side.
So what did we think?
So here's my explanation on my experience with the movie, with the miniseries 1990 Stephen King film adaptation of It.
Okay.
I'm a fan. I have fallen in love with these characters. I fall in love with the adult versions of the characters. I'm invested not only in the lore of the story, but in the lore of the production and what it took to get a film adaptation after this miniseries, in just the lore, the real life world lore of Stephen King writing the novel, the controversial opinions that people have based on a controversial book that features this very uncomfortable stuff like kids having sex. To talk about nipples, like a children's nipples, is often constantly checking them to make sure that they're growing. Like I think, despite that being very uncomfortable, I think for the kind of person I am, and maybe it's the kind of people who like Stephen King too, uncomfortable things interest me. That's why I like serial killer documentaries. That's why I've watched 23 episodes of Criminal Minds in the last 5 days. And it's because like
the way that you said that reminded me of the Papa John's meme.
No, I'm not familiar.
Better pizza, better ingredients.
I've had over 40 pizzas in the last 30 days.
That was like a big meme. I don't know why.
I could do that. And
He could.
And how uncomfortable these things are just add intrigue to me. When I'm on TikTok and I'm scrolling and they find a story about this kid who got stuck in a chimney or whatever, I'm like, I'm going to go on the deep dive.
So you like the macabre.
I like the macabre. I like the morbid. You know, I've never been a horror movie guy. You know, like that's for Fright or Flight.
Which is really shocking.
I've never been a horror
theoretically,
movie
it
guy.
sounds like it's
But
your
the
vibe.
real life world stuff, I like true crime, totally my cup of tea.
See, I don't really vibe with some of the true crime stuff because I guess because it actually happened.
Yeah, it's too real for me.
Yeah. So I just don't really... I can watch embellished adaptations of that. because it feels fake to me because it's an adaptation of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can totally get that. And, Criminal Minds is that, it's like, but I do like watching like the typical true crime girly stuff. I don't know. It just fascinates me so much. I think it's like, what Bailey said, macabre is a really good word for it because I do think about death a lot and me dying and me being hurt. And that's just like a constant in my head. So like, it's a way to like find an expression of it in a sense, especially one where I could think about my like existential or just mortality without having me directly approach with it on my own. It's somebody else's, which can be messed up, I guess, to say like oh, this person dying has helped me consider my life, but that is what happens. I think we're by nature
we kind of do that though.
We
kind of seek answers or seek for closure, things like that. It's kind of weird how we're wired.
It is weird. I think we are just naturally morbidly curious.
Otherwise, we kind of have that, like the Scream teen kind of vibes. Like we all think we're a little bit invincible.
Yeah.
Until somebody around us, something bad happens.
And this book, while it is this movie adaptation, the miniseries from 1990, while it is like one of those embellishments, the way it's done feels so real to me. And despite it being, like imaginary things going on and the clown and a big spider, while those things aren't real, the connections between these kids and their trauma is. And I think that's what speaks to me so much about it. So I
knew you would love this one.
I loved it. And, I'm always so wrong. When we were choosing the episodes that we were going to do on Stephen King, I looked at it and I was like, oh, man, I definitely want to do The Shining. Didn't like The Shining. Oh, I definitely want to do Christine. I wasn't big on Christine either. And then it was like, I don't let Geraldine have that episode. Geraldine will have that one. I don't care about that one.
I really relate actually because every time that we have watched a movie in the Stephen King series, what I have expected my reaction to be has been the direct opposite. I loved it because I loved the characters in it, which I never thought I would ever have like a connection to these
especially with
characters.
the weight of all that controversy
about
like
and
the kids.
Knowing all of the stuff that happens in the books because I already knew about a lot of that before we ever watched the movie. I had no expectation of liking this movie at all. And then The Shining, I thought I was going to love The Shining because I was like, oh, this is like, it's film, it's like it's
the
art.
scariest horror movie ever made.
It's going to be psychological, here's Johnny, that kind of a thing. I thought I was going to be like, yeah, this is going to be like one of my magnum opus like horror films. And I was like, I don't even care for it.
Yeah.
Do not care.
So I was completely wrong. I ended up loving this. Do you want to go ahead and rate it?
I can. Yeah. I mean,
here, I'll give my rating.
Okay. You give your rating first.
Because I explained how much I liked it. I'm giving it a 9.
Okay. I'm right there with you. I'll meet you at a 9.
9.
I'll meet you at a 9. It's one of my favorites. It's not the 100% best adaptations. I think it was wonderful for what it was. I'm glad that I revisited it, because I didn't realize how much. Because a lot of people get a lot of criticisms of it is that they're like, oh, it's boring without Pennywise. Only the cool parts are only when Pennywise is there, but Pennywise is in it a lot actually. I didn't realize how much he was in it. Yes, there are parts that don't include him, but he's actually really in it.
Man, I couldn't disagree more. Don't get me wrong, the performance from Pennywise and is amazing. It's spectacular.
Well, he's my
it's what
favorite
makes the
part
movie.
of it personally.
But I just adore the kids, and then eventually I get to adore the actors for the adults as well. And I just feel like that connection and that how it speaks to me and having childhood experiences that are never talked about, all the negativity, all the people talk about how things are dark in a very oh man, maybe in a war relationship or this grand scheme, vague, larger than life things where it's not just one person or it's more so an experience. But these things about the very minute childhood imagination things that get expounded, I feel isn't ever talked about or processed in a realistic way. You know, we see these movies like Five Nights at Freddy's or the Imaginary movie coming up, and that does speak to it, but I feel like it's super surface level, while this movie really digs in deep. And not only does it show that through the lens of the kids perspectives, but how it affects them as adults, and that really speaks to me.
Yeah.
I know you're not asking for my rating.
What's your rating, Bailey?
I'm gonna give it an 8, and I'll tell you why. We didn't really touch on, like, we barely touched on the final fight, but we didn't really kind of delve into it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting how, you know, we talked about in the first episode, all I ever knew about the It movies were Pennywise. That is the only thing that I ever knew about the movie was Pennywise, and he's a clown. I didn't know anything else. And I think that really worked out for the twist at the end of this movie, where Pennywise isn't even the monster, really. He's just a caricature. He's just like a phantom. The real monster is this weird spider alien thing that exists under Derry in the water system for some reason, and doesn't have an origin, doesn't have anything. And I personally thought I had multiple different ways to feel about it. I liked how I didn't know anything about it. Nobody ever talks about that being the real monster of the movie because Pennywise is so compelling of a character. But at the same time, I was like, so this thing that we're supposed to be scared of in this movie is just some random big spider that you can probably find in Australia today and has no origin. I have no connection to them. Like, I get the idea is supposed to be like, oh, well, the monster is like all of these fears merged into one. And I think that's really cool. And it's probably better executed in the book. But in my opinion, I just thought it was kind of disappointing because I'm just like, this thing is like here for like 5 minutes. And it's the only reason that it's scary is because it looks scary, and to me personally, it doesn't even look that scary.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! It terrified me.
Personally, yeah, it terrified you.
I screamed. Like it didn't even do anything. It was just on screen, and I was yelling.
Yeah, yeah. But for me, I'm just like, I've seen scarier spiders in real life. I'm sorry. So it didn't do anything for me there at the end. And also, they killed off Eddie. Why'd they kill off Eddie? Eddie was like my favorite character. I love Eddie. Why did he die? But so Eddie dying knocks an entire point for me. I'm just like, you know.
Valid. But yeah, I'll meet you there at a 9. I love it. I think this movie is just well done. And then next we'll be talking about Carrie.
Yeah. So our current list, just to tell everybody, that makes it our second place.
Yep.
After Misery.
Misery was great.
Followed by
The Shining.
And in last place, Christine. I guess Christine's holding out by herself. But yeah, you're right. We're covering Carrie. The one that the film adaptation from Stephen King that started it all. See you guys next time.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Fright or Flight, a Live Oaks Village production. This episode was hosted by Geraldine Johnson and Saul Alberto Arzmendi Ochoa. Produced by me, Bailey B. Edited by Geraldine Johnson and music composition by Saul Alberto Arzmendi Ochoa.